So I think the transition really came from I was doing graphic design on the side. I was a big fan of music and a singer named Aaliyah, who unfortunately passed away in 2001. But while I was at first at Lucasfilm, I met her and her dad backstage at KMEL Summer Jam. It's this Bay Area concert. I was like, I'm a graphic designer. Here's my business card. And the father reached out to me. I showed him some of my work. He liked it, and I, developed a relationship with them. And then they asked me to be the art director of her album. And then so I did the graphic design. I sort of did a logo and chose the photo for the album cover. I met up with the team, and her uncle happened to be a big fan of Gatchaman, Battle of the Planets. He's like, hey, not her uncle, her cousin, who was part of the management team. He's like, you remember that show, Battle of the Planets? I was like, yes. He's like, yeah. And he like jumped into the pose, like the landing, the ninja pose. And I was like, yes, that's my shit. And he's like, do you know anyone that could draw her in that anime style? I was like, I'll do it. And then I drew it. And then she was on a video shoot, and they had me show it to her. And she was like, oh my God, that's hot to death. She's like, this is so cool. And then so approved by Aaliyah. And then her cousin was like, it'd be cool if the album promo, we did a commercial in this style. Do you know anybody that could do it? I was like, yeah, I could direct that. And,
yeah.
And then I, fake it till you make it situation. And then I go back to ILM the next morning, and David Nakabayashi, my sort of big brother mentor, I'm like, I think I got a directing gig. I don't know what to do. What do I do? And like, I think I've got myself in trouble. What do I? And then he's like, dude, you'll be fine. You need a producer. We'll find you. He's like, I know Alex Altraki is a great producer. She can do animation. There's a studio called Wild Brain in San Francisco, and they teamed me up with a most amazing art director there named Robert Valley. And Robert Valley is one of the all-time greats. He's done work with the Gorillaz and that famous Beatles rock band thing, and he's amazing. And so I got to work with him on this commercial, and the commercial aired on MTV. All my college friends gathered in my tiny apartment in Emeryville, and we all watched it, and there was just this rush of like, I had been working on Star Wars and these big budget things, and a small part in a giant production, and then here was this like tiny commercial, 30-second commercial that I had full
it was yours.
Sort of vision over, and that was the directing bug for me. And so when I eventually left Lucasfilm, I decided I want to do music videos. I love music so much, and so I'm going to start pitching cold turkey to bands. And me and Aaron Hay pitched something to Weezer.
Right.
And we never heard back. And then on my own, I was a huge fan of The Strokes.
Right.
And something aesthetically resonated with me with their work. I was like, here's this band. I didn't even listen to like punk music or anything growing up, but something about their aesthetic was like, oh my God, what is it about everything, their packaging, their artwork, the way they dress, the music just kind of feels like this universe. It's like world building. It was like they transported the 70s, 80s into the early 2000s. And so the song called You Only Live Once completely resonated with me, and I was like, wow, it sounds like it's a mixture of Queen but there's like these chords that are just so powerful, and I could see this like, the chorus is just so harmonic in the way that the bass, the guitar, the vocals, everything just fits together like a puzzle. And I pictured this like graphic equalizer, like a futuristic graphic equalizer in a circle with all the instruments. So I wrote out the notes, because I used to play piano as a kid. I wrote out the notes and kind of played the notes in this circular form. And the bass guitar like plays the chords, and then the guitar is another ring. So that was the idea for the chorus. And then I was like, okay, let's build this concept around it. So I came up with this whole idea and treatment for it, basically. And I didn't even know they were called treatments. And I was like, how do I get this to the Strokes? And I Google them. It's like Strokes, They're under RCA. They've got a management in New York, and here's their address. And I just like put a FedEx package together because at ILM they had a commercial department, so we would do presentations, right? And we'd mail stuff out on presentations. So I knew how to make a good-looking presentation. Right. So I made 2 FedEx boxes, submitted one to RCA, submitted one to WizKid Management. RCA responds via email, and they're like, "Who are you?
Yeah.
And what's your production company?" And I was like, "What's a production company?"
Right.
And he's like, "We're not even going to open this because like legally we can't even like look get submissions from rando, kids." So luckily, Julian Casablancas' assistant manager at the time opened it and looked at the artwork and said, "This is great." Showed it to Julian. And then I get a call from Julian, and he's on tour in Paris or in France or something. He's like, "Dude, what the fuck is this shit, man?" He's like, he's like, "We've been looking for someone like you for forever." I was like, "Okay, cool." And then it was like this kind of kinship and brotherhood that kind of formed out of that. Like when we first met each other, it was like, "What's your favorite car?" "Dodge Charger 70s." Like, "Yeah, me too." And like, "I love sunken living rooms in the 70s." "Me too." Yeah. So we had this like, love of design and aesthetic that sort of carried on in some of our work, and the sort of the same sense of humor, like this kitschiness. Like our first video we did together, we were just kind of like laughing about like certain. We still to this day like send each other memes and laugh about like RoboCop or Ghostbusters type things, or Karate Kid. Just cheesy '80s things we kind of love and also make fun of. Right. So that was sort of our bond. And I did a video independently with Julian, and then I did a video for Little Joy, an amazing band that the drummer of the Strokes asked me to do. Really low budget, like under 10K. Yeah. That was enough to get the attention of Partisan UK. There was a rep named Sasha Nixon, and she saw my work, and she's like, "Well, you just did something for Julian Casablancas of the Strokes?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Are you signed?" I was like, "No." And she's like, "Let me get you on the phone with Mark Ronson. Yeah. Are you available to talk to Mark Ronson today?" And I was like, "Yeah." So she's friends with Mark Ronson. Right. So she gets me on the phone with Mark. They send me the song. I come up with an idea. I just kind of like come up with this idea for Bang Bang Bang, and it's like with Q-Tip from Tribe Called Quest. Right. And MNDR, another artist. And I was like, "Oh my God, Q-Tip. This is like so me." I like grew up with listening to Tribe Called Quest. Come up with this kind of bonkers idea about this alternate universe where the Japanese guy's speaking French and Mark is speaking Japanese, and it's like a weird talk show that turns into like a Gotcha Man intro where Mark transforms into this superhero by holding the watch over his eye, which is a very Battle of the Planets thing. And then he transforms into this super kind of musician in the video. And that was sort of, and it's funny too, because like after Mark said, "I love this idea, let's make it," then Sasha Nixon said, "So, Mark likes the idea." And I was also being approached by Ridley Scott's production company. And I talked to David Nakabayashi. I'm like, "Ridley Scott's company is asking me to join," and Partisan. Knock said, "Well, didn't Partisan just get you a job?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Go with that." I was like, "Okay, cool." Yeah. And also, I got to give credit to Georges Berman, who's the guy that founded Partisan with Michel Gondry. He sent me a personal email saying, "I've looked at all your work and I've seen your artwork, and I feel like you fit the DNA of Partisan really well." So that it's that nice personal touch that got me on board. So yeah, we did this Mark Ronson video, and it's this kind of retro-futuristic thing with, Ghostbusters style optical effects that I was trying to fake, and I noticed all those inconsistencies and imperfections that made the old Tron and Ghostbusters effects look really interesting and organic because they were drawn by hand and photographed optically. So I faked it, and next thing I know, the U.S. office of Partisan said, "Daft Punk wants to meet you." Sure. I was like, "What?" Yeah, at their office. I'm like, "Wow, aren't those guys like robots or something?" Right. And then, I go to the office and meet 2 very just normal looking French guys.
You weren't blindfolded? Or
no, just a regular office at, amazing office in the middle of Jim Henson Studios, which used to be A&M Records, which used to be Charlie Chaplin's studio. All this history, and that's what the Daft Punk guys are. They're very into like the spirituality of the energy of places. So,
have they ever met Ian McCaig? Have they ever? Sounds like a feng shui.
No, yeah, they should meet them. But I saw the spiritual connection between them and Julian.
Right.
And so I introduced them eventually. Yeah, no, so I met up with them. And also, We Are the World was recorded. Yeah. That documentary is amazing.
Yeah, that is great.
In that studio space. And that's where I first heard, in that studio is where I first heard Random Access Memories.
Oh, wow.
They played it for me alone, sitting in the control booth.
Yeah.
So I meet Daft Punk, and Tomas is the talkative one. He's like, we grew up Tron, the original Tron was such an inspiration to us as kids. It's one of our favorites. We love the new movie. It's, very futuristic and an updated version of Tron. But we want our music video to be a throwback to the old Tron. And Guy-Man, the other guy in Daft Punk, the gold robot, was eating a sandwich the whole time. I was like, this guy's not talking to me. And he finally finishes his sandwich at the end, and he goes, the glow you put on Mark Ronson's shoe, once we saw that, we knew you were our guy.
Wow.
just that little detail on the shoe of Mark Ronson's foot. And then, so did the video for Tron, Derezzed, and then they called me back to work on Random Access Memories. Right. And that was film school number 2, where they were working on this album. Maybe it was a reaction to doing this Digital World of Tron. They wanted to go super analog. Right. So they got all of the musicians from like Thriller, Paul Jackson Jr., drummer Omar Hakim, all these like old school people that played on all your favorite like 70s, 80s records were playing live instruments on that. And so that carried over to the visuals. So they were like, we want an analog feel to the visuals. We want cursive for the Random Access Memories, come up with a logo for Random Access Memories, and warn, we don't want you to use a pen tablet on the computer. We want you to do it on paper and show us the paper. So I have a whole ream of paper where I wrote Random Access Memories over and over, because I could do pretty cursive things, but I don't normally write very nice, so I have to like do it over and over and over again. So I did random, turn the page, random, and then I circled the best ones, stuck them together, showed it to them. Like, great. Like, he actually did it with a Sharpie. Right. And then, and then
do the back cover too.
No, and then so Cedric Hervé came up with this split helmet thing. So he photographed, he's a creative director. So Cedric Hervé photographed the helmets, and he wanted to use this for like merchandise, like a t-shirt, and then it ended up being the cover. So with the split screen on the split helmets on the cover, I kind of like touched it and gave it more of an airbrush look. But when it came time to do like the visuals, the ads, the moving images, they went completely analog, and so they invite me over to one of their film test days, and they've got my logo printed out on black acetate, and the negative space is cut out, so Random Access Memories is clear and the rest is black. They're shining a light through it. They've got 65 millimeter film on a dolly track going in an arc, and it rotates around. I'm like, and they got smoke, and I'm like, why are they doing all this? Is a whole film crew filming the logo? Right. I'm like, we could do this in After Effects, and then we go to Photochem in Burbank and watch the dailies, and the light starts shining through the logo, and it's mind-blowing. There's like weird rainbow colors and weird chromatic aberrations through the lens. The full spectrum of colors are like shining through this in a very strange organic way, and it's magic. It's like, this is the magic of film. Yeah. And they actually did a side-by-side test. They shot it digitally, and then they shot it on film to compare it. Right. And the film version is completely monochrome. It's like cyan, and then the digital version, monochrome, and then the film has these weird imperfections in color that appear. So after that, like, I think Tomas wanted to prove that film was the way to go. So we shot everything on 60 millimeter film. Get Lucky, You Lose Yourself to Dance are all 60 65 millimeter film, and then Instant Crush is shot on 35. And so I know I'm rambling on, but Instant Crush was
if there's an album to ramble about, I think
yeah.
This one, yeah.
So Instant Crush was so fun because it was like we co-directed everything together with everybody, like Guy-Man Thomas, Cedric, and Paul Hahn, the manager. We all kind of group directed Get Lucky and Lose Yourself to Dance. Instant Crush was sort of my baby because I had introduced Julian and Daft Punk together. So Thomas said, this is yours. And so I came up with this idea of sort of based off the Steadfast Tin Soldier, because when I was a kid, I saw an old film where the ballerina and the soldier melt in a fire into a heart together, and that emotionally stuck with me. And I was like, something very bittersweet about the song. It's like this yin and yang of like, they're finally together. It's a happy ending, but they're also dying together, into this fire. And that the lyrics have that feeling. It's like this kind of push and pull between like, a bittersweetness to it. And I said, okay, let's do that for the video. And so they let me go. They insisted again, go full analog. We're gonna build wax figures and really melt it on set. So like, we see the faces melting at the end. That's us standing around with hair dryers all a few inches off screen, blowing the hair dryers and melting. It took like half an hour to melt it, but we speed it up. Yeah. And real flames. And the guy that built the mannequins is this guy named Tony Gardner, who worked on Thriller.
Oh, he's huge, yeah.
Yeah, Alterian Inc. He did the first Daft Punk helmets. He built the first ones. So think it, because he's such a like humble, nice guy. And also strangely looks like he's still 30 years old. But I'm like, you worked on Thriller? Were we like -5 years old? Right. But see, he did the Chucky kind of thing for Technologic. And so it was an honor to get to work with him on Instant Crush. So we got to do things the old-fashioned way.
It's crazy. And I mean, you are here at South by right now for your latest collaboration.
The final Daft Punk video, the final collaboration, which is an honor too, because like it's also the Julian Daft Punk connection. So yeah, there was just a certain DNA that connected everybody. Like, I did the Tron video, and then I'm having dinner with Julian and his manager a few weeks later after the Tron video, and he's like, "What was it like working with them? Did you see them without their helmets?" That's the first question everybody asks. And I was like, "Yeah, they're really cool dudes." He's like, "There's this song called Veritas Quo that is like one of my favorite all-time songs. It's like, it just makes me want to like go on a night drive and cry." And I was like, and I played it. I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is that." It's like this hypnotic loop of a song with very powerful chords, like kind of Baroque classical, and there's a sadness to it. And so Julian finally meets them. I'm like, "Do you think you'd want to meet them?" And then I tell the manager, and the manager tells Guy-Man and Thomas. They're like, "No one writes better guitar solos than Julian Casablancas." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So there's a connection there. And actually, I found out later they were in a punk band called Darlin. Okay. And their first show after they performed it was in one of the guys from Phoenix, the band, French band Phoenix, was also in Darlin. Their first review said, "This is Daft Punk," and so that became their name when they performed.
Oh, that's cool.
So, but when they first saw the Strokes, apparently Guy-Man was like, "That's what we were trying to do," but they did it so well. And so, they connect with each other. Julian, he says, "Dude, thank you so much for introducing me to Daft Punk. They played me a demo of a song called Summer Crush, and it has that kind of like powerful, happy, sad thing that I love." Right. And then I didn't hear the song until weeks later. He was recording some extra vocals, so we go to Electric Lady, the famous Electric Lady Studios in New York, and I sit there, and he's doing some like vocal layovers, and then they play the chorus, and I'm like, "Fuck, this is my jam." Like this sounds like, this makes me feel like a kid again. The chorus. So yeah, it just felt like this like kind of synchronicity and connection of things I was meant to be in a way.
Yeah. It is I mean, not to belabor, but it is like that when Random Access Memories came out, it is kind of like a magical moment. Like, it's such a standout thing, and obviously you don't need to be told that because it is like it is. Although it's funny that we're here. I don't. Did you ever? There used to be rumors every year. I've been to South by for 15 years. Every year there's a rumor that Daft Punk is going to play at the Capitol. There's always the rumor, the steps at the Capitol. And when Random Access Memories came out, there were billboards, there was like big signage everywhere for it. And I was like, this is the year that
we because I'm close to the team, the management, the creative director. We just kind of laugh at those things. We just
every year.
like they'll people forward stuff to us. Is this true? Is this true? And
like,
no.
No. Well, technically they're playing this year because they're playing in the music video showcase with your video. So, I guess to close out, because you've been so generous with your time, but it is your vision